And welcome, everybody. I am here tonight for a conversation with Amir Zonozi. For those of you who are tuning in, there's a good chance you are tuning in as part of one of my classes, or you're watching this video on YouTube or one of the other channels I may have shared the link with you for. I thank you for tuning in. You're going to learn a lot from Amir. Amir is someone that I've known for a while. I've actually got a little bit of a history with Amir in the sense that we were podcast partners for a while too, and had a great time talking about technology, social media, and marketing. So I am really excited, I have to say personally, to be talking with you again, Amir. Could you tell everybody who may not know you just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you for the generous words, Chris. Awesome to be here. This is a real treat for me. Chris is one of my favorite people in the world. It's been a minute since we've done one of these, but pleasure to meet everyone. Amir Zonozi, so co-founder and president of Zoomph. And basically what we focus on is we look at attention as a currency. We help sports and entertainment and esports teams understand what is the value of their attention and how do we bring partners in? What is that value for those partners? But at the end of the day, what we care about most is fans. We think if we do right by them, they're the oxygen of our entire industry, and we bring the brands that they want to see, we're going to get tons of great engagement. I'd argue that that's basically influencer marketing, but as we'll get into that, but excited to be here. And yeah, man, it's been a minute. Good to be on the mic with you.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that definition. When you think about influencer marketing, how do you define that set of words? Because I think it means a lot to a lot of people, and I think it's a different meaning for some people. But you being in the industry, I feel like your meaning carries some significant weight.
No, yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I think it's marketing that's done through persuasion, whether you're aware of it or not, and it's through somebody that you connect with digitally more often than not. It could be in person too, but that's where it's referenced most likely, and it's wanting to live like them, have the same products as them, experience what they're experiencing. It's all about that human connection. But I mean, today, it's pretty much the anti-celebrity, right? If you're not a celebrity, you're an influencer. Sometimes an influencer can become a celebrity, but it's really exciting. I really feel like, maybe the last 5 years, influencer marketing has really matured, and it went from people, just you and I, creating content and brands wanting to be a part of it. Now it's professional influencers. Now there's professional companies that are bringing brands into content. Media companies are doing this in that format. So I look at influencer marketing as a part of a digital asset economy, and it's providing something that's valuable, content that's valuable, that's online. Originally I didn't look at influencer marketing that way, but now it's more of a digital asset, a product that you're creating, and whether it's a show or entertainment. But I'll shut up for a second. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
Well, I think it's evolved, and I think you hit something. You said something really early on, which is that it's different than being a celebrity. Being an influencer and being a celebrity is not necessarily the same thing. Celebrities have influence. So why is that? Why is that variation, or why is that difference so important, do you think, when we talk about defining influence, in particular when we're doing social media or we're doing marketing? Because there is a different approach when you work with a celebrity versus an influencer, which nowadays, just speaking to an industry, Twitch as an example, a huge place, gaming industry, a ton of influence. I mean, you look at even what Facebook is doing. So let's dig into that. What's the big difference between that celebrity and that influencer now here in 2020, 2021?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. I don't, the way I'm looking at it today, right? It's Will Smith, a celebrity that's trying to become an influencer, right? When you look at YouTube today, and like celebrities are now embracing digital content, it seems like celebrities were basically people of influence, but they weren't sharing their private lives. That was the whole mysteriousness of the celebrity that people, really looked up to and idolized. But I think, you and I both know how the studies go. If you go and ask a bunch of high schoolers, who do they look up to? Who do they watch? What kind of content that they consume? And I bet you David Dobrik's on that list, right? And it's in a whole bunch of other people that it's that they're connecting with. That whether it's on TikTok now or Triller, whatever it might be. It's the anti-influencer, and the influencer. There's a sense of authenticity about it. Maybe not when they become a mercenary type of influencer that takes any deal, but it's knowing that you can connect with your audience and your audience listens to you, and it's basically a signal and a receiver, and they really know how to pick that signal that would meet that receiver. And I know I'm kind of getting far out there, but it's been utilized in such great ways where people are putting the products in at a point where it's so impactful that the FCC had to step in. That one dress that got sold out in overnight, it's so powerful, right? That they have to make laws around it, that you have to disclose it. And it's all about that human connection that's a result of it. We socialize where, we want to see other people and share stories and connect with them. And we find ourselves in their stories as well. Casey Neistat, I mean, I got a drone, right? I tried to create vlogging and content. If you look at, I tried to vlog, it was terrible. Don't look at it. But, it was me trying to do what Casey Neistat does. And there's such an art behind it. I had the pleasure of Nike giving me some shoes because I was running and creating content. They gave it to me for free, right? I was just a person using the app. They saw me sharing social. They're collecting all that information. I got cut at some point. I don't know what I did, but they knew the impact because I'm not an influencer, right? I'm like the term is like nano influencer, right? I have a small group of friends that look at my content, engage and I'm passionate, and I took the content for free and I'll do it. And there's, your influencers that, want to get paid now and take content. And there's ones that now have transcended social media, and they're Liza Koshy. I mean, there's so many great people that are out there that have really understood. And Christina Teigen's another one that's a celebrity influencer. It's just it's an amazing way of sort of looking at how do they introduce the product with the trust that the audience that they have. And when your audience trusts you, when you have a connection like that, that's strong, you feel like you understand why they're introducing this product to you, and they're doing it in their authentic way. Sorry, I'm kind of going off, but I would love to hear your thoughts as well, Chris. I mean, how would you look at celebrities and influencers today?
I think one way you describe it is the fact that celebrities are becoming influencers or looking to do that is a good point. And you spoke, I think, a little bit to here that the idea that there's different levels, there's niches to this. I want to share also a comment. Someone who I think is just awesome. Martin shared the fact that everybody's an influencer to somebody. And I want to put this phrase out there because it's an important thing to be aware of, that even you who maybe has 100 followers on Twitter or some other platform has the opportunity to be influential. And I think that's one of the powers of social media. As marketing professionals, and as I'm thinking about overall social media and influencer marketing, it's about hitting the right people. And who are those people? And the influencer that we pick is not always the biggest influencer. I can go back, and one of the reasons I have you on in particular is one of the first people as I do this series is we had a connection. We built a connection. I had a connection to work that you were doing. And this is part of the origins of us connecting. And I think about that, and I always go back and I'm grateful, but that's also been a big driving point for the education on my side. So the fact is, I'm someone who had maybe 10,000 followers and I was able to drive value, right?
Exactly.
There's so many people who have that. So what are these different groups? So we've heard nano influence and we've heard all micro influencer. Can you talk about some of the words that people throw around now? And in reality, what do you think are those groups right now? Because this space has evolved and some terms have come and some terms have gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now I'm looking at Gen Z as the audience of, the darling demographic that everyone's trying to engage and entertain, and the influencers today are on TikTok, right? So YouTube is still there, and they're on Twitch as well. I mean, Twitch is crushing it. The 18 to 34 to 13 to 18 demographic. I mean, it's just like there's so many people, and it's a totally different type of consumption too. It's there's multiple boxes, browser windows that are up, and one is Twitch in the corner. There's other things that are going on. It's fascinating. I mean, you brought up a lot of good points there, Chris. So I'll try to unpack some. One is how we met, right? When Zoom first started, we were in fan engagement. We were collecting social media content. You can moderate it and put it and visualize it out there. And one of our target audiences was higher ed. We wanted to work with universities. And we worked with, still today, we work with amazing universities in their athletic departments and doing really cool, captivating user-generated campaigns. And user-generated content is basically I tweet something, I Instagram something, it gets out there. So when we looked at influencers in the higher ed, we looked at, okay, who talks about these certain topics? What kind of what does their audience look like? Who's in their audience, right? Is it the audience that we want to get? A lot of people have large number of followers, but when you do an audience analytics, there's no popular cohort or segmentation. There's not a group of people there. They either acquired it, there's bots, or they did the ad a billion people and then delete a billion people kind of thing. And that doesn't really translate well when you want to connect to a specific audience. You want someone that knows who their group is, right? And so Chris was that. I mean, he stuck out. And it's not just about someone that has influence in the message that they share and engagement, but in business especially, can you convert? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what driving social media. I began this thinking like social media is all about the relationship, and it is. You can have that, but when it gets to influencer marketing, it's really a business. And Chris had that. I mean, we have clients today that came to us from Chris, and we continue to work with him. When our business shifted, right? We stuck together. We hung out. We did podcasts. That was the beginning of our friendship. But you had an impact, and that was important, right? And our target audience changed right now. As you heard in the beginning, we're sports and entertainment. But and there's different influencers in that, and so every conversation, there's a different group that you're trying to kind of connect to. And an audience at the end of the day is one of the most powerful assets anyone can have. You have an audience, you can take them anywhere and they will support you and they'll engage with you and they'll find the right resources. But you got to give them something. You have to be usable. You have to give them an emotional transaction. They feel happy or sad after watching you. Do they get excited? Or are you teaching them something? Are you learning from interacting with them? And if you're useful, people will continue to engage with you. And useful is any of those emotions or helping you get better. But so at the end of the day, you want to find those people that have a strong connection with their audience. And so Nano is the smallest. It's people that don't really get paid. Or your regular influencer, if you will, is somebody that there's some kind of transaction for what they're doing. But it's the game. It depends on where you are and who you're trying to target. And that's what people forget so often, right? It's, all your likes and engagements, if it's not coming from the right audience, then you lose what your impact is. So sometimes it's drawing a line and saying, this is what I want. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to look at it and know what that value is. And we look at that by performance. So it's, do you get impressions? Do you get engagement? Do you get video views? Depending on what content, photos, or videos, the way the ad industry is looking at it, it's a cost per 1,000. And so they'll give you, hey, I'll give you a cost per 1,000 impressions and it's at $6.70. Every impression you give me, I'm going to give you $6. Or if it's engagement, right? There's different prices. A view maybe on Twitch is 10 cents, right, per 1,000. And so if you're producing content, then you can use that as a way to track yourself. Now there's technology too that you can look at AI to look at what is the value of this specific logo on we do this for sports teams on their content and discount that based off, is it blurry or are there other logos, anything that affects brand recall. But the game has gotten so stable and so standardized in a way that you can track all of your success. And then, but at the end of the day, it's, people want to be in front of certain audiences, and these are brands, and they cannot build the same connections that you do with your audience. So those brands want to work through you as a transaction. And with sports teams, it's something else, because their relationship is stronger than a church for most people.
Well,
with their
can I
team.
ask you this?
Yeah.
I think there's just so much that you can break down from influencer marketing now, because it is legitimate. It used to be, I think, a word people threw out a few years ago, but legitimately people have the title of influencer. Do you think influencers nowadays are, at what scale, I guess, are we seeing the ones that really do get paid? Because you see a lot of people out there saying, I do this and I'm an influencer, right? But at what scale is are these people getting paid in reality? But two, when we're looking to work with an influencer, what do we need to keep in mind? Because I think that's the other piece of this. As marketers, we're going to potentially look to say, hey, I want to work with this person because they've got the right audience. And as you said, that nano audience, as an example, is very small. They may not be getting paid. There's the micro influencers who are maybe very specific, targeted, right? And then there's the big names, the ninjas, for example, in the Twitch world would have been one. I forget if Ninja left and went to Google, but
no, he was signed to Microsoft, and Microsoft closed theirs, right? So then, he was a free agent again. So that was tremendously valuable for him. And now he's with CAA. I mean, CAA is the same agency that agents and sports teams and movie stars. I mean, that's nowadays movies are getting released, or movies will hire influencers to be in their movie, specifically knowing that it's going to get people to, and even the actors and actresses they're looking at their follower accounts to judge whether they should be in their film or not. It's millions of dollars. I mean, this is a legitimate business. This is, I think, the digital economy, right? And it's mature to this third phase, where first it was just people doing it and trading attention, and secondly, people were starting to, pay people for it, and now it's organizations are built to create content digitally. And it's the same as Netflix. It's the same as Disney Plus. It's the same as Peacock, right? Because all of these guys are fighting for content, right? They're pulling their shows and putting a wall around it and monetizing it. And they're saying, you have to pay to have access to our content now. So that's the way people need to think when they're thinking about this economy, is that you're creating original content. You have an audience. And this is the best time, Chris, right, to be an influencer. Who's more suited to create good content at home, right? It's people that are creators right now, right? And so Netflix and all these other companies are going to suffer because they can't move the way they were previously doing it with all of this restrictions with the pandemic. And you're going to see a lot of brands rely on influencers to engage and drive those sales. E-commerce has never been higher.
I was thinking about this actually, Amir. Just an example. We are recording this late fall 2020. Because this may be seen in spring 2021 or beyond. And I'm thinking about the fact that Among Us, a very popular game right now, that is out there, and it's popular amongst all ages. I mean, I think that's the really one fascinating thing about it. But Among Us, I'm now seeing like work being done, emojis and memes around it. You see how these things that became popular via streaming from influencers, they take off because of them. And that's obviously a very specific market. We're talking about gaming market. But the same thing is happening with these other industries, with movies, with films. You'll discover things because of what people are doing with social media. Borat's not quite the same thing, but I mean, here we also saw, for example, with the release of Borat 2, these clips kind of sneak out, right? And it's from a social media account that it's not quite doing influencer, but it's using a technique that influencers would do, which is kind of giving previews. So I think we learn a lot from what influencers do, not just in trying to be one or to work with one, but also what can we try on our social media accounts? What kind of things can we do to get attention? And that's why I go back to how do we work with these people? And I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to understand what the economy of this is, which is they're creating original content and their content is valued. So I guess let me put it straight up. Is being an influencer a career, do you think? Are we at that point?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my argument right now to sports teams is you are a digital company, you're a digital media company, you're not an event company. And what your sports is the platform, is not, and it's not the product. And yesteryear was sports is the product and it's an event. I'm going to bring people to there physically. Now it's like, you got LA Chargers, creating content right now with their podcasts with the wives of the NFL athletes. They are looking to pre-service, and which means is they're creating content without a sponsor on it right now, targeted for women. And they're creating really good. I mean, it's good content, and they're intentionally building this audience so that they can go and bring a brand like P&G or whoever it might be and say like, hey, this is that we have the loyalty of the team. And now we've got this niche audience that's engaged. And throughout the season, this is how often they go to these stores and buy these products. And here are the other accounts that they follow. And brands are going to say, I want to be in front of that. And so that's an entire influencer model, right? It's the digital asset economy model. And so it's, millions of dollars. Marquez Brownlee is sitting with executives from Apple. Could you ever imagine Steve Jobs sitting with a YouTuber? Elon Musk is with Marquez Brownlee. A lot of these professional companies are going onto YouTube and producing their content. And YouTube is a search engine too. I mean, it's a library of content. That's that comment that you made, Chris. You're like, hey, by the way, guys, this is 2020. It's still during the pandemic. Let us know what happens later. But they could be watching this at any point. And so it's fascinating. Streaming is something else. You look at AOC, right? She had the second largest streaming event to Drake and Ninja getting with playing Fortnite. It's insane. Politicians are looking at the value of it, and each platform, right? It's got its own demographic. So you got 18 to 34-year-olds, majority male, but there's a strong female audience. I mean, there was a news just the other day of a beauty product had some of its largest impactful sales with influencers streaming at home, their beauty products. It's so like each platform is different, right? And there's different ad units that you can run on it. So you don't have to go through an influencer. Maybe you just want to run ads on it. I know Geico went from sports to pumping ads on YouTube during that, with everything going on in the pandemic. Or you integrate yourself and weave yourself into the story. And when you do that, it's the best ads are ads you don't know, right? You don't know it's an ad, and because you're engaged or entertained, or the Super Bowl ads, we know they're ads, but like we're watching we want to see more. And so Marquez Brownlee is the same as Jerry Seinfeld creating a show. It's the same value, right? Each one has a different audience that is important to get in front of.
And you're talking about a guy who's talking about technology, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really what he does, and the amount of power kind of he has in that world. There's a bunch of people who do either Google or Apple product reviews, and they get out there. So I think what's fascinating throughout this entire conversation, we talked about sports, we talked about video games, we talked about politicians. I mean, you mentioned AOC. AOC the other night did literally. I remember this on Twitter. She said, "Does anyone want to try this Among Us game with me?" And you had other influencers, game influencers coming in.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'd love to have you come on and do that. And she goes and does this. And whether you like AOC, the politician, or not, you cannot deny the interconnection now that is occurring in all these different worlds. And why is this so popular? Even Joe Biden, who, as we are recording this, it's just days before a presidential election, Joe Biden has an Animal Crossing island that was created as part of promotion. And this was across social. You can go visit because it acknowledges the features of a video game. You can go visit No one has to be there via literally a dream state. I won't get into the details of how Animal Crossing works, but the point is you can go visit Joe Biden's island. And it's now we're seeing that mix. I think these are perfect examples of where the influencer and the celebrity are starting to have a crossover and to become one in a lot of ways. And it's really interesting. I would argue politicians would be considered celebrities in a lot of ways. I don't know, but we need to separate them completely at all times.
Yeah, they're public profiles, right? And what I love is the Animal Crossing that you mentioned. 100 Thieves dropped the merch line on Animal Crossing, right? Like it's and if you're not familiar with 100 Thieves, one, shame on you. Two, they are just a powerhouse of content. Not only are they now in Call of Duty again, you always want to see them there. They're in League of Legends, which is that is the definition of esports. What a amazing thing Riot's Games has created. But they have creators and streamers and lifestyle, right? And they have merch lines that they drop and sell out just as fast as Jordans do. And the reason behind this is, all digital, it's all content. They have an entire headquarters that's sponsored because those sponsors just want you to know they're in the back of the video. And there's so much that you can tell from content, right? For social media, we do audience analytics, Chris, and you can buy the person's bio, by what they follow, the hashtags they use. My bias is rookie dad, lucky husband, because it says dad, I'm a parent, because it's a husband, I'm married, right? If you can group all those people in those different ways, then you can start looking at, well, how do dads watch Casey Neistat differently than 20-year-olds, right? Like, what are they both, like as one, or, it's just so many different ways of why people connect to a certain influencer. And, you look at David Dobrik, right? Like, I'm probably the oldest guy watching David Dobrik, and I love his content. He creates really engaging stuff. But when he went to the dentist and they gave him the shots, the numbing pain, and he tried to do the SeatGeek promo. SeatGeek gives cars away on David Dobrik's, YouTube channel, more than a car dealership sells, I presume. But anyways, they were able to recite. So he was able to memorize SeatGeek's like call to action, right? There's a little blurb. Kids started flooding Ian from SeatGeek. He's the influencer marketing manager there on behalf of that one vertical. They have influencer marketing managers for different verticals everywhere. But kids were sending him their version whenever they got out of the dentist. That their catch, people memorized your CTA, and it's like several sentences long. I'm too old to remember it, but like that is so impactful, and it's the reason why, exactly like you said, that people are now from traditional media are bringing and meeting with influencers to get that digital engagement that they're achieving. And you can pinpoint so well how to get in front of the right audience these days. It's Facebook, Instagram, they're built for audience targeting.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. One thing that you said there, you just talked about how you can break down a profile. I think those lessons go outside of just influencer marketing, in what you described, and that can go into the way you use search and social listening. And I previously had in another video Steve App talk about social listening and talk about how to break that down using Boolean and other stuff. And you can now combine this into this really integrated plan, and influencer marketing fits into that. Before we really end this, in terms of recording, I want to just make sure I inquire with you one or two other things. First of those things is, when you think of the biggest difference between influencer marketing 5 years ago versus now, what's the biggest change you've seen? Because you've been watching this really since it's been a thing.
Yeah, I think it's acceptance. I think it's been accepted as a digital, a form of marketing, and it's just a way of doing things. It's not the only way to do things, but it's one way that's a legitimized way that is in every single marketing strategy that goes out today. influencer marketing is a topic. Like, do we leverage it? Who do we bring the right influencers in? And it's the way to get things done. And so over the 5 years, it went from a joke, like I'm going to post on social media my lunches, to this channel only posts their lunches from, high-end places in DC, and to be on there, to be a restaurant, to get that person to get to your restaurant, you're going to give them free food and pay them and give them, I mean, it's a legitimized business. If I could say anything, that's 5 years, it's become completely legitimized.
And I want to go back to something that got said early. We shared what Martin said in the comments of everybody's an influencer to somebody. And I want to go, and this is a little off the standard topic of influencer marketing, but I know it's something you can speak to. When you describe that personal brand, or that digital identity, as I personally like to refer to it as, why do you think that is so important right now? Because to me, and I guess I'll just put this out there, that thing I try to stress is you are shaping how people see you, and that identity really is a combination of what people see and think of you versus what you're putting out, and where that meets defines you. So there's a responsibility in there. And I think that's the thing I stress. So for individuals, how should they view their actions, managing social, being on social, and with that respect to the fact that they may be providing influence, and ultimately how should they look at using social from your purview to kind of improve their opportunities professionally and as brand managers for a lot of the folks who may be watching this video?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really great question, Chris. It's, think of this isn't for everyone, but if you're getting online, and like, you need to know that your digital presence, your digital brand is almost more important today than your physical one. Really, honestly, because there's, right now more than ever, because that's the only way to connect. But it's people. If, say, you go and you engage with a certain type of content, like, I don't know, if you're always posting videos with, I don't even know, like, I'm trying to think of a random example, but like, action sports or something like that, like surfing and helicopter bungee jumping and stuff. Immediately when I'm saying those words, you're picturing something in someone, right? And if you're posting and engaging, and people will think you're into that, they will assume that's a part of your identity. No, that's a really weird example, but like, every action that you do digitally, and people can see that, and it's going to be etched forever in the internet. Like, I look at I got the Twitter handle Zonozi. I feel like, I am the first of the digital, right? Of that, like, the way I kind of think of that, because my grandkids will now be able to, if the internet's still around, or if we don't, whatever, with COVID 2020. But when they look at my stuff, they're going to be able, like, whoa, why is, like, he actually said that, or they went through that. I mean, it's going to be a way for us to digitally connect with other, future generations. That's the way I think about it and look at it. But it's very much a brand. What you say, what you do, what you share, the color of it, the aesthetic of it, all of it is so important. Every platform's different. Instagram's the look. Twitter is the personality and thought. LinkedIn is the professional one. Like, LinkedIn Chris is a whole lot different than TikTok Chris, right? And just a little, but you have to have a little bit of your personality on each one, tweaked to that channel, knowing who that audience is going to be. But it's one of the most important things in the world.
Well, I will say this. I think this is really important. One of the reasons I bring it up is, and my class would be less interested in this, but there's plenty of things that people think about when they think of me. And I'm fairly confident. Well, yes, I know social media may not even be, it's probably not the first thing. It's more likely pop culture related things. I can think of you, someone I've known for some time, and say, I think of Amir, I think of drones, right? And we're going to remember this stuff. Professionally, when we're thinking of people, though, I now can connect the dots and say, oh yeah, I know this guy who's really great on influencer marketing. He really likes drones too. But I'm thinking of it in the professional perspective. It's very clear who the right person to go for a topic is. That is why I had you here today, and it really is the influence you've had on me on this subject matter. So I want to thank you for taking time to chat with me. And the one thing I've asked most of the people who've done these is, if you were to give advice to anyone entering the marketing profession, social media, or overall marketing as a whole, what kind of advice do you give them to be successful in their professional career?
Yeah, so comfort is the enemy of greatness, and you're gonna have to push yourself to levels of being uncomfortable, right? In doing things that are new and different and learning, going and speaking and engaging. But honestly, there's so many forms of marketing. It's specialized in a certain industry or craft. And for me right now, it's sports and entertainment and esports. And so, like, I'm constantly reading and learning and what's going on. Who are the influencers? I search hashtags to kind of listen to on hashtag sports biz or hashtag SMS sports, right? And there's watering holes of where other people like you are. Find them, engage with them, learn from them, and then experiment with it and find your own way. No one gets there copying someone else. You have to do it your way through your personality, and that's why people will love you. But that's it. It's just constantly learning and pushing yourself to do more.
Well, I'm going to thank you. I've learned a lot from you over the years, and I appreciate you taking time to share your knowledge with all those who may tune in as we recorded this live, and those in the class who will be watching this at some given point in time. For those who are in my courses, I just want to say, I really hope you've enjoyed some of the videos that you have watched. If this is the first video you've watched, there's some more great ones that you're going to tune into. And with that, I just want to thank Amir for joining me, and I want to thank everyone who did tune in live. If there is a question at this time, I will open it up to feel free to ask at this moment. And if there's none, I will shut it down in about 30 seconds. But
no, Chris, this was awesome. I really appreciate you having me on, and I've been influenced by you as well. I mean, I bought products. I mean, this is all Chris's fault. All of this, so it's, influence goes both ways, and I loved Martin's quote there, and it's absolutely true. It's, but yeah, thank you. This has been, fantastic. And
we're gonna, what I want to end with that quote on the screen, because I think this is important. Martin, by the way, folks, is another great person in the marketing industry. And I just think this is a perfect way to end it. So thank you for tuning in. And again, we're going to continue to do more videos in this series if you've been watching them live. And obviously to my classes, you may see these in a lot of varieties in terms of order, but everyone I bring in, I feel confident you're going to take something great away from. So thank you.